we're going to start here this morning, and I'm back in Vegas. I'm super excited to be home. But also, love is still in Canada, so kind of sad. But glad to be sitting here at my desk again and doing and sharing and studying A Course in Miracles together here. So today, I'm pulling something from A Year of Miracles by Marianne Williamson. So this is on day 175, and there's a reflection on invoking love. And I think this is really, we're going to be doing chapter 5, section 5, Jill. But this is just a reflection for us to start the day here. And I think this is very relevant. We can probably all relate to this section here. And it's perfect because it talks about guilt. And so I'll just read it, okay? On invoking love. People who are always telling us what's wrong with us don't help us much, as they paralyze us with shame and guilt. People who accept us help us to feel good about ourselves, to relax, to find our way. Accepting another person doesn't mean we never share constructive suggestions, but like everything else, our behavior is not so much the issue as the energy it carries. I'll read that one more time. Our behavior is not so much the issue as the energy it carries. If I'm criticizing someone in order to change them, that's my ego talking. If I've prayed and asked God to heal me of my judgment, however, and then I'm still led to communicate something, the style of my sharing will be one of love instead of fear. It won't carry the energy of attack, but rather of support. Behavioral change is not enough. Covering an attack with sugary icing, with a sweet tone of voice or therapeutic jargon is not a miracle. A miracle is an authentic switch from fear to love. When we speak from the ego, we will invoke the ego in others. When we speak from love, we will invoke their love. And for me, that's just like, it's so powerful because my wife and I go through this all the time. You know, I notice it in myself when I'm trying to change her behavior, or if if I don't like a certain behavior or something, instead of praying and ask for my judgment to be removed, I kind of have this like, let me say it in a certain way so that it's almost like manipulative, right? It's on some level, it's kind of like shaming or guilting into behavioral change. And parents do this all the time, and we do it with each other all the time. All right, so I think it's important for us to reflect on that today, just to kind of, not as a shame on ourselves, right, or to judge ourselves, but just a little course correction in our energies, right? Like it says, it's not about not sharing or communicating with others, that everything is really all about us. Like, yes, on one channel, one level, there's only us. So any judgments or any triggers that I may have, it is really only me. But on another level, we can communicate in a way that really doesn't have judgments, where we can do what we do, we can say what we say, but we're not attached to the fruits of the outcome. And I think that's the important part, is not having the attachment to the outcome of something, because I don't have a judgment. I don't have a preference. Actually, I don't even know what's best. Right? So there's definitely a part of us that when we can release that level of arrogance, I guess, for lack of a better word, but and really be humble to, I don't really know. I have really no idea. I was coaching and mentoring this young kid. I do this every Monday before our rookie roundtable called Real Estate Call. I have teens and young adults come in, and this one kid, he's been working at being a YouTube influencer for a while, and what was really amazing is I've watched his journey from the very, very beginning, when 1,000 views was like the greatest success ever. Currently, if he gets 1,000 views on any video, it's like the biggest flop ever, and I was asking him to share with us, what are some of the lessons that you've learned? What's the biggest lesson? And he was like, it's how much I don't know, how much I thought I knew, And I really, looking back at it, I don't know. And I can see myself a year from now looking at the current me like, man, wow, how little do I know? And what like wisdom coming through an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old, right? Like, I don't know what I don't know. He literally said it out of his mouth. It's the most powerful thing I learned is that I don't know what I don't know. I'm like, wow, okay. Little guru over here. He literally was like, I thought I knew everything about making videos, about making thumbnails and all that. And then I look back now at my old self that was making videos trying to get 1,000 views. I knew nothing. And then currently right now, he's like, I feel like I know a lot and I know how the algorithm and everything works, but really know nothing. And my point here is when we can look at life that way, and this is something that the ego doesn't really want to hear, is like, I don't really know. I don't know what's best. I don't know what's in my own best interest because I have no idea who I really am and what I'm really even capable of. We can experience it moment to moment, but if we try to think it and we try to understand it, the moment you think you know, there is no more growth. There's no more realizations. There's just the ego. All right, so Doug, this is a year of miracles. So there's actually like 365 awesome things written by the master wordsmith Marianne Williamson, who is also a Course in Miracles student teacher. And yeah, right here, it's this. She wrote the book. Her most famous book is A Return to Love, and that is basically all from teachings of A Course in Miracles. And I've been inspired to also start writing a book. Yes, and presidential candidate. Yeah, I've been inspired to write some things from teachings of A Course in Miracles, and the first book that I'm writing is actually on boundaries. So pretty interesting. So yeah, great way for us to start, just to kind of recognize the way that we communicate with people today, right? It's like we can say the same thing, but the energetic frequency behind it is what really matters. It's not even the words, it's not even the behavior, none of that. It's the energy behind the way we speak about something. Okay. We're going to dive into, we're going to continue reading chapter 5, section 5 today, which is the ego's use of guilt. Every single session that we have on here, we've been going through just one section of A Course in Miracles. And if you have not been following, that's totally okay, because every single chapter, paragraph, word, they stand on its own. Okay, so that means you can have huge downloads, great awarenesses, all from it. So as we dive into the course, rather than trying to use your own mind to understand, agree, and disagree, and all of that, like simply just be truly open-minded, open-hearted. That means I have to take my own, like, I think I know, and put that aside and let something else come through. Because even as I speak and read some of these words, you may not even be able to hear anything that I'm saying, but there might be thoughts that come. There may be moments of ahas that you can be like, oh yeah, okay, that. And maybe it's just today I get to be a little nicer and kinder to people that I run into. Maybe I get to tip a little bit more. We had a homework assignment of shifting our relationship to the energy of money a couple weeks ago. Right, like the scarcity and abundance. And recently I've been talking to a friend, and he was like, when we feel scarce, when money feels scarce to us, it's kind of like we just took a breath in and we held it. We're afraid to spend it. We're afraid to invest it. We're afraid to tip more, to do more, and everything we think about is smaller, right? And this happens to me all the time. Even though I feel like a lot of times I'm very abundant, when I see a check, like when I see a receipt, and it says like tip, and it's like 15%. This happens on Uber all the time. 15%, 20%, 25%. And, part of me would be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do the middle one. Then I feel good about myself. And then sometimes I'm like, wait, because the Uber ride was like $60. I'm like, oh, wait, let me just tip like 13%, because it's still like $5 or something like that, and it's just us to notice. Nothing wrong with any of that, right? It's just for us to notice like where we're holding and where we could be more generous, where we could allow abundance to flow through a little bit more, and we choose not to, right? So like sometimes it's like, for me, my biggest breakthroughs and the biggest years that I've done in income and real estate and stuff is the years that I actually spent the most on my own education. I like 5x'd my income one year because I spent like 120 grand on mentorships and masterminds. And in those moments when I was doing it, I was feeling very constricted. And then once I did it, I was like, huh. And I got to breathe out. And then now I can take a bigger breath in, allowing more abundance to flow in. So yeah, even in the frequency of money, we can, and it's not just about money, but it's, the frequency is a form of the energy of love, the energy of God. So all things are really all the same, but the form of it is different. Right? So I do a talk sometimes on making money more like love, not love more like money. And what that means is it rests on one of the guiding principles of A Course in Miracles is that that giving and receiving happens at the same time. Wow, Fraser, that is an awesome picture of you. Sorry, I got distracted by that handsome picture of Fraser. So the guiding principle of A Course in Miracles, one of them is that giving and receiving happens together. When we think giving and receiving happen separately, giving starts to become sacrificing. Giving starts to become losing. We start to associate that. And so when we think about money in a physical form, $10 to you means I have 10 less, you have 10 more. But that doesn't work for love. But we do that in our relationships. We're like, here's a little more love. I'm showing you love. That means I'm sacrificing. Like, imagine that. We're literally dealing with love, and we're associating love with the physical form in our world, in our material world, and we're using love in that way. And so, of course, the feeling of I'm drained, I'm empty, those things start to show up. But if we make money more like love, that means the more I give, the more I have. Right? The more love I can give, the more I can experience it. That's how love works. And so you have every day, you're confronted every moment, the choice of, am I making this more like the physical thing of money, or am I making it more like love? And that can be, you can relate that to all sorts of different other energies, all different forms, but it's really all the same. How much I give. And that is a code. Every wealthy person, everybody that is happy, has figured out a way to give, that in the giving, so much abundance and so much clarity and peace shows up when we can give freely. There's a quote that I saw on somebody's story that said, once I give, forget about it. Otherwise, I'm no longer giving, I'm being an accountant. Interesting, right? How we are accountant of the way we give love also. Keep track of all this stuff. So, okay, I'm just going to dive into section 5 here. It's kind of it's like a little bit longer than our normal reads, but we should be done within like 20 minutes of that, and I would love to just open it up to conversations, right? So, majority of the time on these calls, the exact topic and conversation we're all meant to hear comes from the shares of you guys that are on this Zoom with me here. and online too, but I haven't figured out how to read comments and stuff online yet. But, the, as I'm doing live, but as I read here, allow you to hear the words behind the words, right? And what that means is, like, when you hear something, you don't really need to try to understand it. You don't need to compare to anything else that you've known already in the past. Whatever your philosophies may be, it doesn't really matter. You can put all of that aside right now on the shelf and just know that you're here, and what you're meant to hear, like with a capital H, okay, is for you. And then from there, we sometimes get stuck in the listening and you do me mode, versus for me to really receive, I must contribute, right? What are some things that are going to come through as I'm reading this so that I can contribute to the group, to the whole, right? It's not just I'll get my download, I'm going to do what I need to do in my life. Yes, do that, but also last week, or the last section we did, was teaching and healing, and that the only way that you can have something is to share it. So, like, teaching is done in many ways, above all by example. Teaching is healing because it is the sharing of ideas and the recognition that to share ideas is to strengthen them. So if you want something, if you want more of something, if you want to keep it, the way to keep it is to give it away. How interesting, right? The way to keep it is to share it so that it may grow. That's how God's love works. That it's not to be held on to, it's to be shared. Okay, here we go. Chapter 5, Section 5, the ego's use of guilt. Perhaps some of our concepts will become clearer and more personally meaningful if the ego's use of guilt is clarified. The ego has a purpose, just as the Holy Spirit has. The ego's purpose is fear, because only the fearful can be egotistic. The ego's logic is as impeccable as that of the Holy Spirit, because your mind has the means at its disposal to side with heaven or earth as it elects. But again, remember that both are in you. In heaven, there is no guilt, because the kingdom is attained through the atonement, which is the undoing of separation, which releases you to create. The word create is appropriate here, because once what you have made is undone by the Holy Spirit, the blessed residue is restored and therefore continues in creation. So just making a quick distinction of creation versus making, right? You make things. God creates. There is no, when creation in the perfect form happens, all it can do is expand outwards and grow. What you make is out of a separate self. So some ideas that we have, right? We make up ideas and we associate things to guilt and to what people do. Like if somebody commits a crime or something that you deem and you judge as wrong, instead of saying that was wrong, we attach the person to it, right? Of all the infinite possibilities that this person can be, we've attached one act, one thought to limit this person. So I've made an image of it. I made it up from a place of separation, from a place of time trap, time jail, and from a place of this earthly world, of life and death, of beginning and endings. I've imprisoned somebody with what I made. Now, God creates, which there is only an infinite moment of right now. That means all the things in the past doesn't really even exist, right? In the last section, we read that all of your past, except its beauty, is gone, and nothing is left but a blessing. That's creation. That there is nothing but a blessing that comes from that. There is nothing but an extension and an expansion of love and light. Everything else you've made up to limit yourself, to reinforce the idea that separation is real. Okay, so that's just the distinction between create and make. Once what you have made is given over to the Holy Spirit, then you will be in creation mode. Okay. What is truly blessed is incapable of giving rise to guilt and must give rise to joy. So here's an indication. The Course is always giving us indications of recognizing, are we in the ego or are we in the Holy Spirit? Are we in fear or are we in love? It's black and white. And that's what I love about the Course, because everything is black and white. You either believe that love is real or you believe that love is not real. You know, and the ego might not want to hear it. Well, here's the thing. Do you believe that love is real, or do you believe that love is the only thing that is real is love? Right? Because that's the condition, or the unconditioned. And really our idea of anything that we can possibly think of as the greatest love that we can experience is infinitely smaller than what's possible of what is. It's like a matchstick fire. It's like a fire from a match versus the sun. The sun is like God's love. And then the match is the greatest love that we can fathom in our physical world. So that's how little we know, right? I mean, from that space, like, wow, oh my God, I know nothing. And also the Course says that there is nothing in this world that could actually teach you the love of the Son, the love of God. You know, we can only momentarily find within ourselves, the only thing that we're doing here is not to be enlightened and be done. The only thing that we are doing here is to find all the barriers that we have created in ourselves against love. That's our only job here. That means triggers, energies, experiences, things that we are experiencing here on this plane. Every single thing is an opportunity to have love reveal itself in there. And that's all we're looking for. You know, we're not fighting against anything. We're looking for the opportunity in there for love to be revealed. Because that's in that I have found where my barriers that I've created against love is. And that's all we're doing. All we're doing is just removing those barriers. All right, so everything now becomes that. Our whole life, every challenge that we've ever faced, every trigger we ever have is the source of our power to remember. Is our source of our power to experience God's love, even for a moment. So, what is truly blessed is incapable of giving rise to guilt and must give rise to joy. This makes it invulnerable to the ego because its peace is unassailable. It is invulnerable to disruption because it is whole. Guilt is always disruptive. Anything that engenders fear is divisive because it obeys the laws of division. If the ego is the symbol of separation, it is also the symbol of guilt. Guilt is more than merely not of God. It is the symbol of attack on God. Here is when I first read this, and sometimes when I'm reading this, I'm like, well, attack on God? I'm not attacking God. Like, I have to defend myself or something. And then I'm like, oh, hey, okay. It's the ego taking offense right now. To take offense is to attack. That's very powerful line right there. To take offense is to attack. Okay? Be with that for a minute. This is totally meaningless concept except to the ego, but do not underestimate the power of the ego's belief in it. This is the belief from which all guilt really stems. The ego is part of the mind that believes in division. How could part of God detach itself without believing it is attacking him? We spoke before of the authority problem as based on the concept of usurping God's power. Okay, earlier in the chapters, there's a section called the authority problem. We have an authority problem. Think about that for a minute. Our whole life, we have an authority problem to our parents, to teachers, to the police, to the government, to God. No, God, you made a mistake here. I got this. I know what should be done, right? And I always go to this because it's very extreme for me, so bear with me. This child molester, this human trafficker, they belong jail forever. No, actually, you know what? They should actually get the death sentence. It's probably better that they're not here. Right? Like, this is usurping of God. We have an idea, a world in our mind, how the world should be. And apparently, some of these things that we deem is wrong doesn't belong here. However, it only happens, we're conditional about that thinking though, because it only applies to other human beings. Doesn't apply to animals, doesn't apply to insects, doesn't apply to us if we if we conduct that to animals or other living beings and all of that. Right? So just think about where we are conditional. It's very interesting for us to just look at ourselves that way. Not as a judgment, not to take it as an attack or guilt or shame or anything. It's literally only for us to look at where we are conditional about our love and about our logic. Our logic is so twisted, and it makes conditions and exceptions all the time. And only when we have like experienced it ourselves, we're like, oh, now I can be compassionate. But that moment that you experience something and you can be compassionate towards somebody, that should teach you that you really know nothing about anything. Ever. You know, and so the Course says the forgiveness, that is the key. Our only goal is to practice forgiveness so that we may return anything, any tainting things, any guilt, any shame that we have put out there, to return to innocence. That's forgiveness. To return to that a sin never happened, that a wrong never happened, including our own judgments and the words that we spoke and the things that we've done. Our forgiving ourselves is probably the beginning, so that we may forgive others, but there is nobody else out there. So forgiving others is the practice of forgiving ourselves. Forgiving ourselves is the practice of forgiving others. Okay, so feel free to chime in anytime, guys. Otherwise, I'm just going to go on this monologue forever. Go ahead, Johan. What's up, brother?
Sorry, I just realized my phone wasn't muted.
Oh, all good, all good. Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Keep going, man. This is always on point. Every time you share, everything is always on point, exactly on time.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Jill, hello.
Good morning. Thank you. This is so, again, for me, I'm so glad that I was just talking to Eric and he invited me to come along. I said I wanted to come. And I was going to say what you were just talking about is that experience is so important to compassion, because those who have sometimes not experienced may not have the ability to have compassion. And we see this oftentimes, that arrogance comes in. And so I just was going to add that part where you were talking about that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
Sometimes hard to have. I mean, what you were just bringing up in the case of heinous crimes, for example, to 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 forgive and to show that love, to show the love. And you see this oftentimes when people whose children or somebody have been killed by somebody and they go to the prison and they forgive the person who has committed the crime, the amount of healing that occurs.
Mm.
It's just so touching, and so the compassion and the healing is so grand, it's so great. And we're talking on a much lesser scale, so to speak, but it's all relevant. It's all really the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that ad. It is like when you experience something, then you feel this full compassion for someone else experiencing it. That's why that's why we live this life right now, is to learn that, right? But we can actually learn it from one experience. From one experience, we can tell, man, I lacked the compassion the last time around. That means forever moving forward, anybody that does anything, there must be a place in which I'm lacking compassion right now. Right, so I can be still and call and pray. This is what the Course is saying. Prayer is the medium to miracles. Like miracles, that experience of compassion, of brother, sister, I see you. I get what you're going through. You did your best, and we are just, spirit in these vehicle meat suits. Right, and what you did, what you said, is never going to. And this is what the Course says. Your way is to see the light in somebody, is to see Christ's consciousness in someone, no matter what they do. Mm-hmm. That's to be compassion to them and to you. Mm-hmm. Right? To recognize that's the only thing, because we always associate an action or an event, and we make that them. That's it. You're a prison of this action and this word that you said forever. And my wife, Love, is she's had this amazing lesson with her dad. Same thing. She's held this idea of her dad for 20 years. More than 20 years. And recently we went back a week ago. We were in Canada, and her dad is like so loving and so kind and so like wanting to show her love, and they danced together, and it was beautiful. I videotaped all of it, and he's got this prized Porsche that he hasn't driven all year, but she comes into town staying with him. We were staying with him. He drives the Porsche down and is like, here, you drive it. You don't need to get a car, just drive this thing. He hasn't even drove it all year. The thing's got 5,000 kilometers on it. And Love's doing long distance road trip with this Porsche. We were pretty funny. So, we trap people in a prison of our own mind. And really, we didn't trap them at all. All we did was trap ourselves. So yeah, I don't know how we're kind of stemming and tangenting into a bunch of different things. But yes, thank you for your share, Johan and Jill. Okay. We will continue, and feel free to add and jump in at any point, guys. So we were talking about the authority problem, and then we went all the way off to here. The ego believes that this is what you did because it believes that it is you. If you identify with the ego, you must perceive yourself as guilty. Whenever you respond to your ego, you will experience guilt, and you will fear punishment. Isn't our entire world just running in circles of that? Of doing, and then the fear of the punishment that comes. Whole life is, are we going to heaven? We going to hell? And based off of the fear of the punishment, we feel the shame and guilt of our everyday actions. And because of this is what the Course says, because you experience this and you have not healed it in yourself, you can't help but project it onto other people and use guilt and shame to try to have people do the things that you think you want them to do and what is best. This is the conditions of our current physical world. The ego is quite literally a fearful thought. However ridiculous the idea of attacking God may be to the sane mind, never forget that the ego is not sane. It represents a delusional system and speaks for it. Listening to the ego's voice means that you believe it is possible to attack God and that a part of him has been torn away from you. Fear of retaliation from without follows, because the severity of the guilt is so acute that it must be projected. Whatever you accept into your mind has reality for you. It is your acceptance of it that makes it real. Big. That's huge right there. All right, so before A Course in Miracles, before mushrooms and plant medicines and all that stuff, I used to think things were either they're true or they're false. This is 100% real. 100% the physics and the things that we think, like all the things, science, our own traumas, beliefs, our own systems. Nope, that is 100% real. Then, as I'm studying, as I grow spiritually here, everything is only kind of real now. Every single thing. Every idea I've ever had is only kind of real. That's why I put on today's quote, like, when you have a thought, don't forget to laugh at it. Because otherwise it's just too serious. That's how the separation actually happened. A thought came, and it was, what if we could be something other than God? What if we could be something other than love? And because we forgot to laugh at it, the fall happened because the Son of God forgot to laugh. And we forgot to laugh at that thought and became real. And when we are real, when we think that these thoughts are real, we spiral down and create a world that doesn't really exist. It doesn't really make sense, but the ego is trying to have us make sense of those things. Right? That's why we chase all these false idols, the Course calls it. And when we feel guilt and we feel shame, we actually try to make it up. Right? So like a parent might yell at their kid and then try to make it up by buying them a gift or being, lenient on something else that they had discipline on before. Because of this guilt. And the projection of the guilt and the fear of retaliation. And then we guilt and shame ourselves, and then we try to compensate by doing worldly physical things, which really has nothing to do with that. All right, so we find these false idols and we find, oh my God, I did all this stuff, which only is happening. You did a lot of stuff in the physical world, but really gave you no more peace than before you got all these things. And then we're like, wait, I just spent all this energy, all this time, made all this money, and I thought I was going to be happy. I thought finally I can have some peace and joy, and then I don't have it. Like, isn't that the most depressing thing that can actually happen for us? That we chased something our whole lives, and then here towards the end of our life, we realize, wait, what was I chasing it all for? So this is why, you see so many super ultra wealthy people. They have not found a way to give back. They have not found a way to connect to source and to love and to God. Like, commit suicide. Suicide is a huge thing. How many people want to leave this world because they've just been so frustrated with it? I was reading a statistic, like freaking millions of people actively think about suicide. That is like super sad, And what do I know? Maybe it's super sad, maybe it's not. But, we get to, our goal is to shine the light. We shine the light and we show them that light is possible, that they are the light. And each person, when none of us returns to the sonship until all of us returns to the sonship. So unless we all go, nobody's going anywhere. Okay? Because they're all part of the whole. They're all part of you. And so with all of that, it goes pretty deep, and we can get caught up twisted thinking, but really there's just one of us, right? And we get to treat everybody the same way we want to be treated. It's that simple, You know? How do I want to be witnessed?
When Jesus was asked how many times they should forgive somebody, he said 7 times 70 in a day.
And that's just the start, probably.
That's a lot, 490 times.
Maybe, maybe not. It depends how stubborn we are. And how big we think something happened, right? How big we made that event that requires forgiveness. Because sometimes it could be a lifetime of practicing that. Okay. The ego, guilt. Wait, where am I? I have said before that you must learn to think with God. To think with him is to think like him. This engenders joy, not guilt, because it is natural. So when we experience joy, we know we are in our natural state. When we experience guilt, we know it's the ego. And the ego is full of illusions and tricks and all of that. So just like if I experience this tightness, if I experience guilt, if I experience shame, fear, any of those things, I can choose to see that it really isn't real. Okay? It's only as real as I make it out to be. If I believe it to be real, see, here's that law of expansion again. I am giving it the thoughts, I am feeding it, I am sharing it, I am bringing it back up, and it becomes more. It becomes more real. But that doesn't really even exist unless I decide that it exists. Unless I choose to give it the energy. Now you can also, that's why the Course says, you must be vigilant for the kingdom of heaven. That means in those moments, when you're fearful, when there is fear, when there is guilt, when you're experiencing something, on the flip side, remember, heaven and hell are both in your mind. Which one do you experience? That is up to you. That is which teacher will you listen to. Now, the caveat is you can't listen to both. Okay? The caveat is the vision of one world costs you the vision of the other. You cannot look at both at the same time. Now, the ego may say, yeah, you can, don't worry. But in each moment, which is the only moment that is real, that is available to you right now, and then right now, and then right now, right? In that moment, you can only see either one with love and understanding and compassion and patience, or you see it with guilt, shame, fear, anxiety, depression, conflict. Both are actually perspectives, the Course calls it. That means they're only as real as you want it to be. And that's how the law of expansion works. That's how the law of God's love and light works. And we are simple channels of that. Okay? But we get in the way when we start to think about fear and restrictions and scarcity. You know? Think of and all of those thoughts come from the idea, the base idea, that somehow we are separate. Think about it. Any problem and any scarcity you ever had, you have the best idea in the world. You're going to make billions of dollars. What's the first fear thought? Oh, I better not share it with everybody. I better get a patent. I better get an NDA. I better all of these things. The only reason those fear comes up is because you believe that you're separate. You believe somebody's going to get you. And you either believe that to be 100% true, and you lose sight of heaven and oneness and unity and all of that and all the abundance that's available to you by being there. That you have a choice. You know? And sometimes it takes us to the end of our life when we're really ready to go before we realize, what was I trying to keep all this to myself for? That robbed me of possibilities. That robbed me of love. That robbed me of creating abundance for the world, for my brothers and sisters, for my family. you know? All right. And you know, this happens for all of us, every single one of us. You know, I have an amazing idea with my mastermind and mentorship course. And a part of me is like, wait, I better not share it too much on social media. Other people are going to start doing it. That means I'm going to have less clients and all that. I'm like, wow, is that not insanity? I'm here studying and teaching A Course of Miracles, and that thought comes through my mind. But the key is the forgiveness. My bounce back time is impressive to myself. Soon as I do it, catch on to it, let go of the shame and guilt that I had on myself. That's forgiveness right there. It never really happened. Owning this moment matters. All right, I've tangented off the reading way too much. I'm reading the same sentence for like 25 minutes here.
Forgive yourself. It happens often.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, anybody can still jump in. All right, just jump in at any time. We're just having a conversation here, basically. The ego does not perceive sin as a lack of love, but as a positive act of assault. How interesting. Positive act of assault. How are those things in the same sentence? But that's how insane the ego is. And in our mind, we do it every day. We justify our attack. We justify our judgments. And so here's my positive act of assault. What? That's insane. The ego's like, no, that's cool. That's insane. This is necessary to the ego's survival because as soon as you regard sin as a lack, you will automatically attempt to remedy the situation and you will succeed. The ego regards this as doom, but you must learn to regard it as freedom. Sin is lack. Okay? But there is no lack. That means there is no sin. See, that's our entire thing that we're doing here is to remember that there is no lack in us. We couldn't possibly lack. If I can't lack anything and nothing adds to me and nothing takes away from me, ever, that means people cannot commit sin against me. That's why the moment I take offense, I have already attacked God and my brothers. Because I believe, one, and myself, I believe that I am lacking. That is why I need the affirmations and the confirmations and all of the things of outside of me. And so the forgiveness is that I must forgive myself for forgetting. Forgetting that I am so whole. The guiltless mind cannot suffer. Being sane, the mind heals the body because it has been healed. The sane mind cannot conceive of illness because it cannot conceive of attacking anyone or anything. I said before that illness is a form of magic. It might be better to say that it is a form of magical solution. The ego believes that by punishing itself, it will mitigate the punishment of God. Ooh. Yet even in this, it is arrogant. It attributes to God a punishing intent, and then takes this intent as its own prerogative. It tries to usurp all functions of God as it perceives them because it recognizes that only total allegiance can be trusted. How insane. The ego, okay, even in the usurping of God, in this punishment of God, first to think that God is a punishing God, then to say, I'm going to usurp God and punish myself and punish others. If that's not like the most insane thing ever. Right? The ego cannot oppose the laws of God any more than you can, but it can interpret them according to what it wants just as you can. Ooh. That is why the question, what do you want, must be answered. You are answering it every minute and every second and each moment. And each moment of decision is a judgment that is anything but ineffectual. Its effects will follow automatically until the decision is changed. Remember, though, that alternatives themselves are unalterable. The Holy Spirit, like the ego, is a decision. Together, they constitute all the alternatives the mind can accept and obey. The Holy Spirit and the ego are the only choices open to you. God created one, and so you cannot eradicate it. You made the other, so you can. God made one, God created one that cannot be eradicated, but there is one that you made that can be. Catch the Course's drift yet? Owning what God creates is irreversible and unchangeable. What you made can always be changed, because when you do not think like God, you're not really thinking at all. So that is all the interpretations and stories of our life, all the perceptions and anything we ever thought was real, we made them. That means they can change. And if they can change, they aren't the truth. Okay? Think about any stories that you've ever held, any philosophy, any religions you've ever followed. You've changed your mind in so many things. That's the recognition that you made them. Now the question of who am I and what do I want is looking towards the things that are unalterable. No matter what, I can't change it. What would that be? It's a great thing to reflect on. Delusional ideas are not real thoughts, although you can believe in them. But you are wrong. The function of thought comes from God and is in God. As part of his thought, you actually cannot think apart from him. Irrational thought is disordered thought. God himself orders your thought because your thought was created by him. Guilt feelings are always a sign that you do not know this. They also show that you believe you can think apart from God and want to. Every disordered thought is attended by guilt as its inception and maintained by guilt in its continuance. Guilt is inescapable by those who believe they ordered their own thoughts and must therefore obey their own dictates. This makes them feel responsible for their error without recognizing that by accepting this responsibility, they are reacting irresponsibly. If the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for himself, and I assure you that it is, then the responsibility for what is atoned for cannot be yours. This is massive. Big line right here. The sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for himself. Okay, to accept the atonement is the undo, is the giving over of this to the Holy Spirit so that it could be purified. So then the responsibility for what is atoned is actually not yours. The dilemma cannot be resolved except by accepting the solution of undoing. Okay, the atonement. A lot of times when you're reading the Course, it's like when we hear like atonement, we're like, wait, what? What does that mean again? To atone is simply to undo. Undo the stories you made. To atone is undo the prison that you put on somebody else. The identity that you've attached to for who you are, who I am as Alex. All the things we've attached identities to. To atone is to undo those things. Because if we've given identity to anything, we've already limited it. It is no longer a creation of God. It is made by me. Even Jesus, we make Jesus in our mind all the time. Because it's an identity we've attached. I've attached to what it means to me, who Jesus is, all the things. To atone is to undo the limitations I've placed on these things. That's the greatest way we can honor something and to love something. I'm going to undo all the things of you that I've made, that I see with my physical eyes and hear with my physical ears and feel with my physical body. To go beyond to the witnesser, to the witnessed. Okay, Jill.
Hi again. I think that's faith. Giving yourself over to God and allowing him to be in charge. Mm-hmm. So, because it says here that the atonement, where was it? It says For what is atoned cannot be yours. And so if you have faith, it almost always boils down to that.
It's always
To
faith.
really- yeah, it really does. It really boils down to letting go and letting God. And no matter what the circumstances are. This last week I was in Washington, D.C. with a Muslim family whose father was killed in Syria. He was the HeartMath Institute Humanitarian of the Year for Healing Children. It was he was an amazing person. He's healed thousands of children in refugee camps. And I spent 3 days with this family, and what they have been through is beyond suffering. And these people, every day, all they say is, Inshallah. And in addition to saying Inshallah, they taught me that the word Islam means surrender. And they surrender themselves every day to God.
Wow.
And 5 times a day to God. And so it really is giving yourself over to God. It's a very humbling place to be.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, a quote that's been stuck with me for a month now is, because there are some things that I'm hoping to have happen in my life, and that I'm like, I need miracles to show up. And the quote is, had you have faith, you wouldn't even need miracles. That's a mic drop right there. Had you have faith, you wouldn't even need miracles. But we need miracles to strengthen our faith right now. Right? Miracles strengthen faith. But once you have faith, you don't even need miracles. That's what the Course is saying. Once you're walking with God all the time, it's just full trust. And that's a mindset. That's a state of mind. It's a state of peace that we're looking for. Is that?
It takes away all judgment.
Yeah. All judgment, all anxiety. And when judgments are gone, all anxiety is gone.
Anxiety is not of God.
Yeah. So the purpose of the atonement is to save the past in purified form only. If you accept the remedy for this disordered thought, a remedy whose efficacy is beyond doubt, how can its symptoms remain? The continuing decision to remain separated is the only possible reason for continuing guilt feelings. We have said this before, but did not emphasize the destructive results of the decision. Any decision of the mind will affect both behavior and experience. What you want, you expect. This is not delusional. Your mind does not make your future, and it will not turn back to full creation at any minute if it does not, it will turn. Let me read that again. Your mind does make your future, and it will turn it back to full creation at any minute if it accepts the atonement first. It will also return to full creation the instant it has done so. Having given up its disordered thoughts, the proper ordering of thought becomes quite apparent. So again, this goes right back to faith. Every one of our problems that we think we have it's a disconnection to source. It's a disconnection to the Father, to God. Right? Because we believe that, oh man, God does not. In those moments, we just question, does God have my back? Does God have my best interests at heart? And since we don't believe that, we think that here we go again, usurping God. I know what's in my own best interest. I need this to happen. All right, so, the next section that we're going to do on Sunday is awesome. I love this. This is time and eternity. Love talking about time because it's so trippy. That's, we're going to just it's probably going to take us another year and a half to go through the course, but there's no rush. Every single part of the course speaks to its wholeness already. Worry is praying for the worst outcome. Yeah. Worrying is to pray for the worst outcome to happen. Thoughts Anybody like to share anything? Any experiences you've had this week? Anything that we can relate? Any of what we talked about? And all things relate to everything we've talked about.
Thank you, Alex. It was lovely to be with you and to read the course with you and to just reflect on the things that are going on presently in my life and to utilize the course to address them in a loving way. Because as the preface of the book says, it says that nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Mm-hmm.
Only love is real. And when you get down to really understanding that, to really grasping what that means, and I've had these discussions over the years with people who read the course, I believe that what it really means is actually nothing else is real. Nothing else is real. And I've had people who read the course for years say, well, that's only in the Holy Spirit. But no, it actually, for me, it means right now. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Love is only love is real. All of the arguments, all of the everything underneath it all is just love.
Yeah.
And it's just communication that gets in the way. And that's why in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and God is the Word. So,
Yeah.
keep it real. Thanks. I hope to join you. I hope to continue joining you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, me too. I do hope so as well. You know, you great, amazing contribution to this call. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank
So
you
good to
much.
see you. Thanks for inviting her and reminding her, Eric. So, anybody want to share anything of any challenges, anything that might have arisen as we were reading, any thoughts that might have come through that you like to share with the group?
I can share.
Let's go.
Nothing like really comes up negative right now for me or challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel really humbled to be around the people that I'm around these days. We had a great men's call yesterday, and it was such a blessing, and it just really makes you think that we know so little, and I get to have these beautiful insights from other brothers that we're the same energy. So that thought of one brother's view on humility to me was so humbling, and to hear another brother's thought on how when we're in fear and when we are in doubt, and that's the things that stop us from being better than it. The fear is basically, it's the ego's way of controlling us. And I really found it really valuable. And I have so much more love for everyone, especially my new brothers. And I'm just so happy to be here always, as much as I can be. And a lot of love.
Yeah. Thank you. And you know, I've seen I don't know how long we've known each other. Maybe like a little over a year now, since like, you know, the Brad Sumrock event. I remember AmNACon, like whatever year that was. But you know, just your growth from where you were then to now, like spiritually, as a father, as a man, you know, like just watching that blossom, it's incredible. It's like it's teaching me so much too, you know. So really, really love that you've been on these calls and you're a part of our journey and you're a part of my life. Really appreciate you, brother. What else? Who else?
I was just gonna share. It's been hard to do the times. I'm in California now. I've been on the road since April 1st. Started
Nice.
a new business, new relationship on the road, and I just want to take a moment to thank you, Alex, with all my heart. You show up every week. You do these calls, and I've been on so many calls where I was in a really low place and getting into a stronger place. And I just want to say, every time I come on, like, just so many mic drops that you share, and you're such a light. And I got so much value sharing a love story as well. I just had a breakthrough with my father, and just wanted to acknowledge to thank you for the continued create and showing up at everything you do.
Oh man, thank you for that. Thank you for that acknowledgement. Felt chills as you were sharing, so appreciate you, man.
I am because you are, and I'm living a beautiful life now. These calls were pivotal times for me to chicken the ego, because the ego can be
see.
so decisive and divisive. And it always comes back to love. The conversation I always have is like, what's leading, fear or love? What
Yeah.
do we want to write the story, fear or love? And it's been such a beautiful tool to use. So thank you again, all you share, brother. You do so much. So just wanted to acknowledge here.
Oh man, thanks. You are. Thank you for the kind words. Um, Marianne would like to share something, and then I think Claudia wants to share something right after. Actually, you know what, Claudia, you go ahead. You put on the video before I was gonna say something, so go.
It's okay. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, nice shirt.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Still love it. So for me, well, I have very present, some of you have been watching The Chosen, and now the season 4 is out, and I have this curiosity, right? In the episode number 2 of the season 4, he mentions, the character of Jesus mentions that. So I believe I came here to separate people. He was asked to be the facilitator or the minister to marry one couple there, and he doesn't answer, and he say, I believe I came here to separate people because all these disciples are following him and they're being separated from their family. And he's like, of 5 of them, 3 of them are following me and leaving behind their family because they believe in me. So I was like, wow. In the other part, when I'm studying now the law of one, he shows like how come it's not that he was separated. It's like simple as humanity was not ready for him to come.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's doing his other process, right? Am I actually understanding now? He's in another dimension now to be able to come back. But so besides that, it's like, how do you feel about that? How do you feel like, because the truth is that we feel so much separation when the Christianity has been either, seen different and different, even in the same Christianism, like the Christians, right? Like having different perceptions and perspective of what really he was coming to.
Yeah. So here's a really interesting thing. So we asked a question last week. Somebody asked, what is duality? Right? And duality is that same thing that you watched, right? There is a egoic self that can watch it and create more division and reinforce division. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense because we see it from the world of the physical. That's one way of seeing it. From the way of the spiritual and of God, there is no separation. That means even this idea of I here came to separate you isn't even separation. It is a way to unite. Right? So there's the mind, the duality is that those are the two planes in which we can see a situation from. One is seeing beyond that, even the act or the words or anything that is shared in front of me itself and that I've just witnessed from my human body, from the physical body, only sees evidence of the physical. And then I have to look beyond it. Then the mind, then the spiritual aspect of it, the other higher plane, let's say the higher mind, right, sees that there is separation could never even happen. There is no good and evil and bad and wrong and all that. It's beyond it. And the duality that we have in our mind, and that's why we're confused all the time, is because those are the two worlds, right? Those are the two worlds that we see from. And sometimes we see from the physical, sometimes we see from the spiritual. And so even in what we watch and what we interpret, we have to choose which world, which plane, which channel are we watching it from. Either only love exists, or that love exists sometimes. You know, so yeah, either separation is real or it's not. You know, so when we're seeing like bodies interact with bodies, it reinforces separation, right? But when we see it from a place that there is no separation, it's like, okay, I'm just talking to myself. If I just told myself that I'm separating myself, what is that? That's not like, it's to show me that the separation can't even happen. Right? So everything is working in accordance to God's plans. Sometimes it looks like it needs to use evil to wake us up, to shake us. Sometimes it needs to use love to wake us and shake us. But either way, the waking and shaking us is the truest, this is the highest form of love. And so it encompasses anything that we can think of. So yeah, great share. Thank you for that. I was trying to find examples of how to like explain duality, and I was like, because it's hard to remember that also when I'm trying to share from a place of the physical world. And I'm like, wait.
Yeah. So I can share my own duality, right? Like
Great.
It was you were there, Alex, when I had the the moment of I've been working with my dad, even though my dad has been gone for 22 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the physical world.
Yep.
I believe that I feel now that all the work I've done, even if it could be more done, but I feel exactly that duality where I saw, his ways of being showing more his shadow side than his light side. Even like he had a lot of light side, but he didn't show off. I mean, at least me, he didn't show all the light side. It wasn't that sustainable for him. In this past weekend, I was just like, wow. Even in his shadow side, it was loving way for me to understand and to become the woman that I am today. Because all the work, even him, like look how impactful has been in my life. The almost 24 years that my dad has been gone, I'm still receiving, some lessons and some enlightenment from the shadows that he brought into my life. So, and that is like right there, the compassion and the faith that Jill was talking before. That's it. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
And then real life.
Yeah. Awesome.
May I go?
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Always good to see you. Thank you. Bea, thank you for sharing. Brother, as like Johan was saying to you, as you were speaking, it's like there's a knowing. It's like a complete like 100% F yes, like we like to say. It's an F yes, yeah. It's an S yes. And yeah, like last night there was a lot of energy in our home, and we had a little interaction. But man, I saw it immediately. I got engaged, and that's bullshit. Love is here, so whatever. Get your space, whatever it is. I don't want to engage in this energy because I know when I engage, it's just we feed this crap. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so this morning I woke up in a beautiful state, loving my wife, and it was nothing. It was just a little hiccup because there's a lot of stress in our lives in certain areas. Children and finances, business. It's just life. Everybody's lifing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how? Thank you for showing up, reminding us of how that God is the ultimate. If life is for us, at the end of the conversation, and just even today, finances, how just but an opportunity presents itself, and then something shows up to cover it when you don't even know where it's coming from. It has to be. Because there's nothing it's an amazing thing to be reminded, and then more and more to be integrated in that belief that I am the I am. So thank you, brother. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, everyone here, for your beautiful words, and keep showing up, because if I heal, you heal. That doesn't need to be healed, but we heal. The world heals. The vibration rises, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I think you and I had a conversation at 12:30 with my brother Alex.
Yes.
Other brother Alex. I'm looking forward to that. I love you guys, and thank you again for showing up, and thank you for everyone for just supporting me.
Yeah.
Supporting me in my remembering.
Yeah, we're all doing it together. And you know, here's the thing. You know, if you ever forget like how amazing you are, you know, all of you, like, you already know. This is why when you hear some of these things that is being shared from the course and whatever, you're like, oh yeah, that's a fuck yes. Oh my God, that was so powerful. You recognize that it's so powerful because you know it.
Yeah.
Right? If you didn't know it, you'd be like, what? What's he talking about? What's this separation? What's this love thing? Right? But because you actually know it, you know truth, everything you ever need is already you and inside. You recognize that already. So if you ever forget, like, oh my God, I'm doing something stupid, or I'm not lovable, or I'm being dumb and I'm feeding into some stupid energy, you already know. Right? And then also, like, we can, even in those situations, because sometimes when we just disconnect and disengage, like, it creates more fear and more guilt into the space, right? But there's an opportunity to strengthen communication in those times. But you have to pray and cleanse it first out of your own side and be like, the purpose here of all of this happening is to deepen our connection, our communication. Everything is communication. All of our problems stem from communication. And really, it's the communication with God. And so if we can develop and create that communication channel with God, then we can do it with all of our brothers and sisters, knowing that everything that ever comes up is a moment to create clarity in communication, because we want the same thing. It's not separate. In the middle of fights and arguments and those things, we think we want different things, and we don't believe the other person wants what we want, but we do. You know, ultimately, it's the peace, it's the faith, it's the communication with our highest self. That's what we really want. It's so I can have the clarity. I'm not worried about the finances. I'm not worried about how things turn out. I'm not worried about custody battles and all of those things. Knowing that everything is happening for our all greatest good. You know?
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
And if I may, I know you love Jim Rohn like I Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
And I just mentioned worry. You didn't say one time, worry in a beautiful way, right? Worry's like a rocking chair. You do a lot of movement, but you get nowhere. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you. Love you.
Yeah. And then you give it over to the Holy Spirit, you get somewhere. Spirit takes it and we'll get somewhere with it. So
that's it. That's been my experience. When I worry, I just say thank you. I don't know what's up with this, but thank you. I trust. Let's go. Let's move forward. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's not spiritual bypassing for me. That really is bringing in the gratitude that whatever life has, it's for me and not against me. And as I just say thank you. I was at the hospital last year around this time. I had I had some infection, stomach infection, whatever it was. I was there for like 4 days. And through that whole ordeal, I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's the only thing that gives me relief, really, from anything, is saying repeatedly, thank you, thank you, thank you. Anyway, thank you.
yeah, it reminds me of when I was driving from Florida to Vegas, and it was when COVID first happened, and I ended up getting COVID going to a Grant Cardone event. And I was driving, and halfway through, I ended up getting really sick within 5 minutes. Like, I thought I went from like having one light cough to not being able to breathe, and like in Walmart parking lot in the back of my Tesla, and I couldn't even make it from the laying down position to my door. Like, I couldn't even get up to do that. And I thought I was going to die in the car right there. And I was fighting it, and I was fighting it. And then at one point I was like, you know, If it's my time to go in this freaking parking lot of Walmart in this new Tesla that I just bought, that is comical. And then from that exact moment when I said that, I fell asleep. And then I woke up feeling a little bit better and that I could drive and continue my drive back to Vegas. But that whole thing, I didn't see Love for a while. She already moved to Vegas. She flew there, and I'm driving our car there, and then it's Christmas and New Year's. I ended up like being isolated, quarantined during that time. Like
What, remember you had left the apartment at the route, you had just finished the Grant Cardone, you had just...
Oh, I left your house. I left your place. Exactly. I stayed at your place and I ended up getting COVID. That's so funny. That's why I called you. I was like, you guys got COVID?
I didn't get it. Remember? I said, well, if he got it, I might get it, but I never got it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so funny. Yeah.
You just got your car wrapped, I believe, by a mat or something.
Yeah, it
like
was
that.
matte black. I just wrapped it. Yeah.
I liked it.
That's so funny.
He
Yeah. All right, so we got a couple more minutes here. Anybody else feel compelled to share anything at all?
I got something, my man.
Let's
Good to
go.
see you. Let me step over here so I don't have an echo. Fraser mentioned earlier there was a great men's group that we had yesterday. We do that every 2 weeks. It's amazing. And it's so interesting. At the end of the call, my heart called to and I was guided to ask each man to put in our chat that we share, what is your distinction of humility? And here you are this morning, and we always joke about like everything's coming through at the perfect time, right? But what I was assimilating was a conversation that took place over the weekend about what it is to be present with another in their share. And I took it even like layers deeper and like looking at my relationship with self, my relationship with self, like to be present with myself and not shattering the ego, but also relationship romantically and with children, how there's like, as they would say in Landmark, listening to respond in contrast to presence. And like, to me, presence and humility they're in and of the same, because that humility of like, I don't know what I don't know, as you said that the young man shared in your group, and there's so much available in every moment is what my practice has been when I quiet the mind, the chatter, the ego mind, the fear, the worries, and even more so like in the conversation with another, there's so much there when simply present and coming from that heart space of humility, which is like letting go what I already know and like, oh, let me fix this, and oh, I perceive you as suffering, so let me give you this golden hammer that can take all your suffering away because I fucking know. So it's like in that conversation of presence of others sharing, and in the conversation of humility, I found this link, almost like blockchain, that connected those two things of when listening, even if there's a trigger happening or some things being said that's bringing up a don't tell me what to do, or I did something wrong, or whatever, like all that ego chatter from a place of when I bring in the word presence is one thing. When I bring in the word humility, it allows me to like lean deeper into the humility distinction for me, which is connection with source.
Mm-hmm.
And that anything that wants or needs to come through will come through from that place, not from the mind, but from the all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to say thank you, Alex, for the conversation we had about presence and the practices that we're bringing into our personal spaces and spaces with others.
Mm-hmm.
And then also humility and some of the distinctions and the symbolisms that I use with humility are that of like Hindu deities and things like that, like Hanuman and Ganesha. I see these symbols that are so beautifully drawn, usually with a smile or like in kind of cartoon fashion, and it just softens my heart, which opens the heart and quiets the mind.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to share that link between looking at the different symbols, the humility that they represent to me, which then is within me, if I can see that, and what it is to be present. And I want to say thank you to everyone for all of your shares today as I've been practicing presence and humility. It's really opened up and given me a lot of gems to carry along with me throughout my day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And amazing. Like this past weekend, we got a chance to sit around the fire, did a tobacco, share with, and we learned about presence. This is something that I actively practice all the time. Like if I'm doing something, like how present can I get to just one thing? And we had a chance to be present with each other, and also feel what it's like to be witnessed, right? When somebody gave you presence. And the greatest gift we could give somebody is that presence, that unconditional, full presence. And also recognizing in each moment we can learn about ourselves. Every moment will teach you all that you need to learn about this moment. And so how present can we get with somebody? And then also understanding that when somebody gives us that presence, like we are being witnessed, to hold that presence, to hold that quiet and stillness, to be able to witness you, that is an amazing gift. So then what is it that you really want to share in those moments? How much can you craft and foster and nurture the message that you actually have? That you're not just taking up space. That you are really giving from that place. And, I love when people are on actual camera, because I can feel it, I can see it, gives me the energy to feel witness versus me just speaking to myself. I mean, great. The pictures are awesome. I love everybody's pictures. I love looking at them, even the electrified chihuahua, but, and completely nothing, no, like there's no energies around any of that. Okay. So don't worry about it. It's not like me putting anything out there like that, but I'm just saying in general, like how how amazing it changes the frequency, the vibration of this entire call just by having Ariana and Jessica and you guys like have your cameras on, right? All of a sudden everything's changed because it's being witnessed that way. And it's just, that's powerful, and how it shows somebody, man, I'm giving you presence. And like literally you guys turning your cameras on, I'm like, whoa, chills like crazy. And yes, thank you for receiving that. And that's when I join somebody's Zoom, I 100% make sure that I'm present, and if I'm not going to be present, I literally, it's totally nothing wrong with it. You can be driving, doing your own thing, whatever, listening to this on the side. That's awesome. But just know, like, when you are giving full presence to something, you will learn about the ego wanting to distract constantly. To pinpoint your attention in one place is a practice that needs to be like fostered and mastered so that we can be better with our loved ones. We can be better parents and better husbands and wives. And one of the codes that came through when Adam and I were sharing this past weekend was like, I think we just found the cure to ADHD. And not even like the disease itself or whatever. It's just our ability to hold attention. And anytime that we have an opportunity to practice that, it's like a muscle. Right? It's a muscle. How much can I hold an attention to something? My thoughts will come, and then I'm going to think, and then I'm going to want to respond. I'm going to want to do something. But can I just let it come, laugh at it, let it go? If it's meant to stay, it'll be my time to share, and I'll share. Versus just like, I'm going to blabber anything out that comes to my mind. Right? Because now I'm being held in a way I'm like, oh, there's pinpoints. There's that type of a gift, attention, and presence that's given to me. And it literally will elevate the things that come through whoever is speaking, not just me. All right. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to share that download we had this weekend. Thank you, Adam, for bringing that back up and reminding me that, because I was really not even thinking that. But yeah, I noticed that sometimes, like when everyone's camera's off, like I have a hard time even connecting to the things that I'm reading in A Course in Miracles. Like it just happens, but it's cool. I'm just like, oh, well, I guess I'm just supposed to just read and not know what the heck I'm reading right now. Yeah. So in those times, though, that's when you call on all the practice and all the things that you've done, because it's automatic, right? That's why we practice so much. We devote so much to this practice. All right. That was awesome. Thanks for listening to my rant. Any last thoughts, comments, questions before we conclude here?
I'd like to share one little thing.
Let's go.
When you were saying that and everyone popped on the video, I may not have met all of you, but my heart space grows so much when I get to see your guys' faces, and I can't wait to meet you guys in person. And I just, just thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, love it.
And thank you for calling us out on that, because I do that all the time, and it's not the same. When I'm looking at you, I'm always listening, but when I'm looking at you, my heart is connecting with yours also. It's not just my mind and stuff. So thanks for calling us out on that.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks for hearing. And, just love you guys all so much. Thank you for being on this journey of remembering and awakening with me together. Anything that I can do, I'll make time for anyone that ever has any challenges, questions, whatever you need. Just message me. Let me know. All right. That's it. That's all, folks. Send love. Be kinder, more generous, loving today to whoever you meet. See you later.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thank you,
great week,
Alex.
guys.
Bye, everyone.